Indian sisters in the Middle East.
Yes, yes. Oh my God, absolutely. You get it with the Gulf Malayalis.
Full on Gelfies. And but you were born in the Middle East and lived there, or?
Yeah, I was born and brought up in Dubai. So born here, lived here for 17 years, and then moved out, and then now I'm back. It's like
Oh man, for
tale as
me,
old as time. Yeah.
oh my god. So,
Alright.
as you said, you grew up in Dubai,
Yeah.
and while
Yeah.
growing up in Dubai, we were talking about your Carnatic stylings. You actually learned Indian classical music from the age of 3.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you must have been singing bhajans and all that kind of stuff and really learning.
Yeah.
So
How
where
you
did
know?
that? Yeah, I heard it
How
was your
you know?
older. I heard it was your older brother that really got
Yes.
you into the, as they say, Western music.
Western music. Yeah, he corrupted me from a very young age. Corruption. No, man, but honestly, so my parents, when I was a kid, they heard, I think when I was 2 or something, my mom heard me just singing this song that was quite famous at the time. I don't even know if it's like a mix of a spiritual song, but it also sounds very rhythmic and kind of has that kind of commercial vibe to it. But she heard me singing that song, and she was like, "That is such a challenging song. This child is singing this as though it's just she's drinking water at this point, so." So then they were like, okay, maybe they usually say 3 and all is very young to put someone in voice lessons and all, but at that point they were like, okay, if she's interested, let's see what happens. So that's how I got into music. Carnatic was kind of my initiation. I feel and when I was also inside my mom's womb, she was blasting me with bhajans and spiritual music. So I feel at the age of I guess 13, 14 at that time, my brother, whatever he's my older brother, Suraj, he is 5.5 years older than me. So whatever he was listening to, I started listening to, and he was blasting rock and pop and soul and R&B and jazz in the house. And so everything that he was into, I'm like, oh, he's cool, I should also be cool, like him. So yeah, so a lot of his influences became mine, and that was when I also
Influence,
felt
corruption, whatever you want.
all the same thing basically at this point. And at that point was when I was like, okay, I started, through his taste, and I started changing and started, experimenting and listening to, at that point, checking out who's big. And that when I was growing up, it was Dido, Nora Jones, Erykah Badu, and then through that I started listening to Ella Fitzgerald and Nina Simone and Etta James. And so slowly I started picking up these different voices, and I was like, wow, okay, if these people have a place in the music world, because until at that point, I was still kind of not sure if I had any talent, or kind of feeling like I didn't really belong in the singing or music world, just because I felt like my voice is in that kind of lower space, and what is soprano was considered as worthy or highly professional talent kind of
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Exactly. So I kind of never felt like there was a place for me in this world and in the music world. And listening to these voices like Nora Jones and Ella Fitzgerald, that really helped me also feel like, okay, if they can do this, and if they're big, and if they're this is how they're expressing, and that's their voice, and so maybe I have something too. So that was my also just kind of, that I think was the pivotal turning point where I felt like, okay, I should get more serious about my singing skills, and actually, so learning by ear. Of course, Indian music, so much classical music is learning by ear. So this was the extension of that. And then I started competing in school competitions and national level competitions here in Dubai, and then
Did
and it was after,
competitions.
yeah, girl, competitions. You have to get into all these competitions. It's just all these solo vocal, Western vocals, and I was I was all over the place. And then it was good because it made me realize how much I wanted it. And then I wanted to study music as soon as I got out of high school. But at that point, just my family still lives in Dubai, and for them it was a huge thing to negotiate as well as navigate just me wanting to do music. So at that time they were like, no, 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 you're not going to be doing this. Like, you please go do something else, like normal human, and you get a backup plan, like plan B you do, and then we'll see after that, you know. So at that point even I was like, okay, you know, like I'm who knows, maybe I'm also coming from a place of immaturity. So I decided, like, they wanted me to stay and study on in Dubai itself, and I was like, no, 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 I'm going to go to India. I'm going to connect with my roots. I'll go to Bangalore. I'm going to study there. I'm going to live by myself. I'm going to see who I am, and if I can handle myself in India, then I know I can go to the US. I know I can handle myself anywhere. So that was what pushed me to move from here and not study here, but move from here to India. In a way, I grew up because, like, at the age of 17, I was there, and I was there till I was 20. So it was like those really, like, tough years of transition into adulthood was in India. After I graduated from Mount Carmel, which is where I went in Bangalore, at that point, that was when I was like, okay, I've been doing the music thing. I've got my education done in terms of this. I studied journalism and psychology, and I was very happy. And I'm like, okay, fine. Like, I did what I needed to do. But now what? Do I go back to Dubai? Do I find a job here? Like, what do I want to do? Because I know I want to do music, but what is my next step and where can I go to do this? I know I wanted to go to the US, but how? Because there's no way I can just go just like that without any specific plan, like for my parents, you know. So that was when, like, it's like how certain things, they just happen, like this whole universal kind of plan that, you know, is unfolding. Because I'm thinking all these things, and at that time my brother was like, Shubs, do you know Berkeley from Boston? They're coming all the way to India. They're on this world tour audition. They're auditioning students in China. They're coming to India. So why don't you just, you know, you can't, anyway, you're not going to be able to go all the way to Boston just to audition. So why don't you just go in for this, apply. And literally it was like tomorrow was the deadline, and I found out today. So I sat, I did the essays, I applied, I sent in all, like, at that time it was like CDs. So I was sending in like my music as a CD, and like, just doing everything like, okay, let's see what happens. Then I did the audition in Bombay, and basically didn't have any expectations at that point. I'm like, okay, let them deny me, no problem. I'll go do this and see what happens. And that was when I found out, like, a month later, that I got accepted, as well as got in with scholarship. And I was like, okay, so this is an ultimate sign. And then it took my parents a while to get used to it and understand, and
why scholarship to God? No.
Yeah, but still, it's like this whole, like, okay, like, going to the US is like full corruption. Like, you know, at least before it was like half corruption. Now it's like complete corruption. So they were like, should we get her married? like this is the excuse. This is like the thing they use for everything, dude. Like, you know, this is how they control. Like, you know, like, should we get her married? Because, you know, once she goes to the US, that's it. She'll never do anything. Like, full on, like,
she'll just married. She won't do anything. They'll change.
Exactly. It's like that kaivittu boy. Like, that'll be like, we'll just lose hold on her. Like, that's the literal translation. Like, you know. So I was like, guys, like, please. I mean, I don't know. Like, I've always
have
been
some faith, like, in you.
Yeah, trust. You know, like, we believe in this. Like, for them especially, they're super religious, and and in that sense, I'm like, see, if you believe in this, like, higher power, and you haven't even seen this person, but you just believe, then why can't you believe in a human being, like your own child? What is this, like, blind faith, but this hypocrisy, you know? And I have always been someone who's like a free spirit, and you can't cage me, you can't control me. Like, so why do you even bother? You've never been able to do this. I've always done what I wanted at the end of the day. So allow me to do this also. Otherwise, I'm just gonna run away. So, like, you know what I mean? So just figure it out. Otherwise, no problem. I'll figure it out. So they're just like, okay, fine. You know, then they understood it. So that's the thing with them. They take some time, but then eventually they came around. They're like, okay, she's not going to be happy, and what's the point if we keep her here and she's not, you know,
I mean,
if she's not coming up, then
to some extent I think these are moments in time where I mean, it's also, I mean, even though you in your heart of hearts know exactly what you want to do, it is also a realization for them to be okay with Okay,
Absolutely.
I have to actually trust that she's going to go. This is also like a really weird question because I found out that your EP that you released in
Yeah.
2015 called Indian
Yeah.
Soul,
Yeah.
your band name was SA, which is anyway your, I guess, your initials, but it is
Initials, yeah.
also the song.
Yes, the first and last note of the scale. You see, I think of everything.
You should be your own spiritual guru, huh?
I'm
Music
telling
guru.
you. I'm telling you, that is my path. It's eventually where I'm gonna end up the way I'm going.
So the reason actually
Yeah.
I'm so excited that you're on the show,
Yes.
and we're having a chat right now, is that you have a new single that you've put out called Fear.
I was certain of my life purpose, unafraid of the unknown.
Yes.
Honestly, blew me out of the water. It is such a,
Wow.
and I think that your Carnatic roots and your own vocal style, you've melded it in a way that I, it's like I can't, there's like no way of me separating the two at all. It's like there's something
Wow.
in your voice that it's so like deeply intertwined that like you can hear when someone is doing like an alap and you can hear when someone's doing like
Yeah.
a jazz scat. Like you can hear the difference
Yeah.
with your
Yeah.
vocals on this. I can't take out one from the other at all. It's so interesting. So can you tell
I
us a
love
little
that.
bit about what the song is about and sort of this particular vocal style of yours?
100%. So for me, it's definitely been a journey to this because having studied Carnatic and then also I'm still continuing with that as well. As an adult, I got back into my lessons with my guru in India, and so I'm still growing, still learning, and at the same time, having gone to Berkeley and studying these different styles of jazz and R&B soul. Once I graduated and moved to New York, I was at this kind of point where I'm like, okay, who do I want to be? I can't market myself as a jazz singer. I can't market myself as an Indian singer, or you know what I'm saying, Indian song singer or whatever. And then it means like certain things. It becomes like I'm in a niche space myself. So it was a lot of choices I had to make and a lot of, in a way, sacrifice because I wasn't willing to sacrifice that sound and my style, my signature. It came from like wanting to meld these cultures. Especially, I grew up in the UAE, but I'm Indian, and my identity is definitely rooted in like the fact that I'm Indian, and then the fact that I've studied these different styles and lived in the US. And my mentality, even though I have certain traditions and I hold on to certain things, roots from India, but I feel I don't hold on to everything. Like I have this very much like forward thinking. I'm very empowered, and I want more women to also have that sense of choice and sense of freedom. So that has what has pushed me as well to like experiment and not be worried and not feel like I need to be labeled or pigeonholed into one thing just to be accepted or to belong. Like I belong everywhere. I'm a part of all these cultures. Why not bring them all into my music? And so that was what led me to writing Indian Soul. And from there, I feel um, through the years between 2000 like 14, which is when I started writing those songs, though I put it out in 2015, and then to now 2021. I mean, fear was like a natural kind of extension of my writing style because I've now decided like I am all of these. These are all the voices that are in my head. So I'm going to channel all of them into my voice and bring out this style that is a mix, a thali of like all of these flavors of East and West. And fear came from a place of actual like fear because at that point I mean I was in New York, and it was 2019. I was going through a space and stage of suffering because I was just like, okay, feel like as though I've been here now close to 5 years and I'm doing everything I can, but it's like New York is a very tough city. It's a tough city because not, especially as an artist, because once you're like there, it feels as though just to kind of you're working almost just to live, just to survive, just to be in New York. But you're actually as an artist not getting as much unless you kill yourself, unless you're like, okay, I'm gonna work all day and then stay up all night and I'm just gonna do this every day and not. And that's what I was doing, and I burnt out quickly. So I had to, that's why there's a bit of a gap between my, because everything, if you're doing it by yourself, it takes time to push things out. and you just no space to be creative or inspired after like working 9 jobs, and you come home and you're like, I'm hustling so hard just to live in New York, and I'm not even experiencing New York. I'm really just like going to all these jobs and coming back and then trying to now write something or trying to squeeze a little bit of like creativity out of me before I die on my bed, you know? So so I was going through this time of like, oh my gosh, is it not, is maybe it's not too late? Like, and you know, I think it's also this comparison culture, and we're on social media, and our parents are also, you know, they put this, you know, unintentional maybe, but there's this pressure of like, look at your cousins, look at your friends, everyone's getting married, everyone's having babies, everyone's buying a house or a car and like moving on, and what are you doing, you know, and where are you, and how long will you keep doing this? Like, it's like they still don't understand this is my life, you know, and they're waiting for me to grow up and grow into these other milestones, you know. So it, at that point I was also feeling, you know, when you're also down and struggling like financially, physically, mentally, everything, and then you're looking at these people on your social media, it, at that point I was like, maybe I need to change my career path, maybe I need to, I don't know, there was just, and the thing is in the US, like when you're there, you are always on this like timeline, because I at that point I'm still on this thing called an artist visa, but it's every 3 years, and every 3 years you need to renew it, and you need to show them what you've done in the past 3 years and what you're going to do in the next 3 years, and how much you're going to make, all the contracts, like you need to show them so much of like my application was 7 kilos, you know, like weight, what I sent them. Yeah, because that's how much paperwork I needed to show them, to show that like I'm worthy of this visa. But when you're in that mentality, you're like also like, oh my God, time is going and I need to like be making all these moves. And so there's just a lot of pressure. And at that point I was like, man, like maybe I need to, what do I want? And at this kind of like crucial crossroads space, I was like, okay, as it always happens, like every time I'm about to give up, but this voice, this music kind of like thing, that like a part of me that is also just like music, came through and was like, okay, you know what, before you give it all up, before you decide this is not for you, or you move back, or you change your career or whatever, why not write one more song? Just write one more song, and after that you give it all up, like just do one more. I started just like writing a couple of lines, and then at that point it just happened that I was like so down that it just came out as a melody, and literally the first words were like, I've come so far yet I'm nowhere. Those were the first lines that came to me, and that's the beginning line of the song. And once I wrote that, I was like, okay, I'm not done yet, because then that gave me the idea to create this into like this album called Reproduction, to put this in. These singles are all part of this EP called Reproduction, which I'm putting out next year. Yeah, so I feel like the Reproduction, the album, the EP came from these songs being written. And at that point I was like, there's so much pressure as a woman, as a single woman, you know, as a 31-year-old, to be like, you're not married, you don't have kids, like, and what are you doing, and how do you feel, how do you think that like this is enough, you know, there's this constant thing of like your that you're not enough, that your career is not going to fulfill you, and that you need to be thinking about your next moves before your eggs dry up or whatever. And I think that like it just that was where Reproduction came, because I'm like, dude, like you don't need to be, you know, to be all those roles in order to be called a mother. Like I'm a mother just by the fact that I'm creating music and putting out, these are my babies, you know. This is how I find fulfillment. Someday if that happens, great. If those other things also happen, great. But that's not what I'm going to chase to find happiness. I'm already happy and I'm already settled, and this is my way of saying like this is another form of reproduction. It doesn't have to be like that is the only way, and that is that.
Absolutely.
Exactly. And also realizing like there's no other way. Like this is who I am as a person, as an artist, and I want to keep growing and I want to keep challenging myself. And yes, there are going to be moments when I'm like, what the hell am I even doing? That's how I felt after I put out Fear. I was like, what is even the point of all this? You know, just like, you know.
Just
and
like
then,
after putting Fear, I'd be like, now let's let the self-doubt take over.
Exactly. Because the thing is, up until then, you're like, you've held it so close to your chest. Like, I still have all these cards I haven't played. Fear was a big card for me to hold on until it was right. Because I could have put it out in 2020, it was done. But I put it out only this year because I was waiting for things to open up, to go on a tour. Nothing happened like this, but at the same time, I was like, okay, I'm gonna release this and see. But it's still like kind of, I think it's still picking up, and I'm just working out how to get more people to see it and get more people to listen to it. Because it's different, and I'm an independent artist, and it's gonna,
It's tough.
yeah, it's gonna take some time.
I get it.
Yeah.
I'm even like indie. I'm a podcast. I talk about indie music. Super indie.
Indie. Yeah, exactly.
Well, I'm excited to tell the
Yeah.
world about Fear, and I'm so glad that you got a chance to be with us on the show. So thank you so much, Shilpa, for your music.
Thank you.
I'm excited to hear reproduction.
Yes, it's coming out next year. There's gonna be more singles being released in the time being, so new things coming up. Please be on the lookout. Yeah.
Yay!
Woo! Yay! Thanks, May.
Can anybody hear me? I'm trapped in a mirror.